We've all had relationships that forced us to ask, am I nurturing a friendship or merely enduring it? Sometimes it's someone close, a familiar presence from our past, but each encounter now leaves us drained, hurt, and unsettled. The problem is, society teaches us to be forgiving, to endure, especially when it comes to family or old friends. But Stoic philosophy doesn't tell us to sever ties out of anger or resentment. It offers one clear and powerful principle. We are responsible for safeguarding our inner peace. If a relationship no longer helps us grow, no longer serves as a refuge for the soul, but instead becomes toxic ground, then creating distance is not selfishness, it is maturity. We don't walk away out of hatred, but because we've come to understand this. Our worth is not defined by what we hold on to, but by what we are willing to let go. In today's video, we'll reflect on 9 unmistakable signs that it's time to end a relationship, no matter how close that person once was. Not to escape, but to be free. Not to punish them, but to forgive ourselves. 1. You always feel drained after each interaction. You are not a dumping ground for someone else's emotions. Some relationships do not explode in obvious conflict or betrayal. They leave no visible scars, yet they quietly deplete us bit by bit. Each meeting, each conversation, each message weighs heavily, as if a piece of your life force was taken without consent. If you walk away from every interaction feeling empty, exhausted, and needing time to recover, this is no longer a normal exchange. It is a sign of erosion. Stoicism teaches we cannot control the behavior of others, but we can choose what we allow into our minds. When we let others bring chaos, negativity, and tension into our inner life, we are holding the door open for what ought to remain outside. Many people maintain such relationships out of loyalty, affection, or fear of judgment. They tell themselves, we've been friends since childhood, they're family, or maybe they're going through something. These reasons sound compassionate, but they become excuses for ongoing endurance. The one who seeks inner sovereignty knows that kindness must not become a chain. Repeated exhaustion after every interaction is not coincidence. It is a warning. Pay attention to how you feel after each encounter. Do you feel uplifted or drained, heard or overwhelmed? Is your mind refreshed or tangled in endless stories? These signals should not be dismissed. Mental depletion rarely comes all at once. It accumulates, and the slower we recognize it, the heavier the cost becomes. Some people come with a list of complaints, then leave as if you are meant to carry all their misfortune. They never ask how you're doing. They don't care if you're busy or tired. To them, you're an emotional gas station. They fill up and leave without a glance back. Over time, you begin to dread even the sound of their messages. Just seeing their name can trigger anxiety, defensiveness, and weight on the chest. That is not how a healthy relationship should operate. Others aren't overtly negative, but they never stop talking. They recycle the same problems, repeating struggles they refuse or fear to change. Whether you offer advice, encouragement, or simply listen, it always ends the same. They don't want a solution. They want an audience. And you become the vacant chair, always present, while your mind is pushed to its edge. The Stoic does not reject compassion, but they understand that empathy must not come at the price of self-collapse. They know their limits. If a relationship lacks mutual balance, one-sided kindness becomes a burden, and burdens carried too long erode both generosity and trust. In this age of constant connection, many confuse closeness with nourishment. Not everyone who is often around is good for you. Not everyone who shows up frequently is meant to stay. Sometimes, Fewer meetings held in sincerity are better than frequent ones that leave you depleted. Remember, inner peace doesn't come from removing all people. It comes from discerning who should remain. Those who leave you feeling lighter, safe, and grounded after a conversation are the ones to cherish. In contrast, if someone requires you to recover after every encounter, that's not a bond. It's a drain. Recognizing this doesn't make you cold or untrying. It means you're listening to what your soul has been whispering all along. Stoicism doesn't ask you to shut out the world. It teaches you to curate what you allow into your mind. 2. They manipulate you with emotion, then play the victim. If they're always the victim, you'll always be the one at fault. Not all manipulation is overt. In fact, the most insidious forms often come from those who make you feel guilty for not doing what they want. They don't shout at you, don't insult you openly, but they plant in your mind the belief that you're the problem, the one at fault, the one who's hurt them, even when all you are doing is protecting yourself. Emotional manipulators often flip the narrative to avoid responsibility. When confronted with their wrongdoings, they quickly shift from being the aggressor to being the victim of circumstance. If you say their words or actions have hurt you, they respond with tears, sulking, or stories of their own hardships, as if your pain pales in comparison to the burdens they carry. This form of manipulation traps you in a spiral of self-doubt. You begin to ask yourself, am I being too sensitive? Am I overreacting? Could I be the one who's wrong? These questions don't arise from reason, but from the way your perception is being pulled away from reality. This is what the Stoic philosopher Epictetus warned against. When others control our perception, they control our emotions and our actions. Another common tactic is gaslighting, a form of manipulation designed to make you question your memory, your perception, and your logic. When you recall something that happened, they deny it. I don't remember saying that. You're imagining things. You always blow things out of proportion. These aren't mere denials. They are weapons meant to strip you of self-trust. And once you stop trusting your own mind, you become dependent on them to define what is real. A clear trait of manipulators is their reluctance to apologize sincerely. If they do, the apology often comes with conditions. I'm sorry, but you shouldn't have reacted like that. Or, I'm sorry if you felt hurt. Here, they don't own the harm. They acknowledge only your reaction. This shifts the burden from their actions to your feelings, making you responsible for the pain they caused. Emotional manipulators are skilled at casting you as the troublemaker. Set a boundary, and you are called selfish. Decline to help, and you are labeled ungrateful. Withdraw from a toxic conversation, and they claim you are cold and unfeeling. These accusations send you back into guilt, and soon you're accepting behaviors you should have ended long ago. They construct a distorted version of the story, one in which they're always the one wounded. They'll retell it to others, sometimes even in front of you, in a way that paints you as heartless, indifferent, and cruel. And that's when you feel compelled to prove that you're not, that you're good, that you're trying. And that is exactly when they win. When you begin to love to justify yourself instead of living in truth. In Stoic philosophy, a core teaching is the separation between fact and interpretation. Behavior is an objective event. Emotion is a subjective response. When someone blurs these lines to blame you, when their wrongful actions are masked by hurt feelings, they're distorting reality. And if you fail to see it, you'll be swept into an endless emotional play, where you are always the culprit and they are always the victim. Observe this cycle. You're hurt. You speak up. They act hurt in return. You apologize. You try harder. They continue to manipulate. This is not communication. It's a warped dynamic where one person maintains control by making the other feel guilty for asking for fairness. A healthy relationship doesn't make you question, am I wrong for feeling this way? A kind person won't make you feel guilty for setting boundaries. Someone who truly cares won't use their own pain as an excuse to conceal their harm. And most importantly, a relationship worth keeping does not demand that you sacrifice your clarity, your dignity, or your truth. 3. You're the only one trying to hold the relationship together. Someone who truly cares won't let you carry it alone. A healthy relationship doesn't come from perfection. It comes from two people moving toward each other. When one person keeps moving forward while the other stands still, or worse, turns away, it's no longer a bond, but a one-sided effort disguised as connection. If you find yourself always initiating the texts, making the calls, remembering birthdays, suggesting meetups, mending conflicts, or trying to save what's falling apart, chances are you're not in a relationship. You're holding on to something that's already empty. In Stoic thought, every action must be paired with conscious observation. When we invest time, energy, and emotion into a relationship, we must ask, is it leading to balance and mutual understanding, or is it simply draining us with no return? A relationship only truly exists when there is two-way engagement, where both are willing to nurture, to listen, and to attract as they move forward together. Some people aren't overtly wrong. They don't insult, betray, or stir conflict. But they're absent. They go silent during important moments. They forget what you always remember. They don't respond to care. And when you finally let go, they never ask why. All responsibility for maintaining the connection rests on you, as if nothing would happen unless you made it happen. That's a clear sign you're the only one still there. The Stoic does not demand perfection from others, but neither do they allow themselves to be entangled in lopsided ties. If you're always the one who initiates, who apologizes first even when you're not wrong, who makes peace just to hold things together, that's not virtue. It's the burden of one carrying both sides. And if the moment you stop trying means the relationship disappears, then that tells you everything you need to know. Many excuse the other person by saying they're just not good at expressing themselves, or they're too busy. But time and care are about priority, not ability. Someone who truly cares will find a way. Someone who doesn't will find excuses, a call, a message, a small act. These are all signs they still care. But if silence is all you receive, that's not a phase, it's their nature. There's a subtle trap in one-sided relationships. You start justifying their indifference. You tell yourself that if you try a little harder, change a little more, pull back just enough, things might be steady. But the more you bend, the more you blur the boundaries of your own worth. You're no longer yourself. You're becoming the version you think they'll accept. And at some point, you'll realize you've silenced your own voice just to hold on to something lifeless. Stoicism teaches this. We cannot control the hearts of others, but we can control our own choices. If you've done your part, been kind, given fully, then the rest is no longer your burden. Don't let someone's silence or indifference make you question your value. A genuine relationship doesn't make you feel like you must strain just to be enough. Remember, someone willing to walk beside you will not leave you to walk alone. They will build with you, repair with you, and lift with you. If it feels like you are gripping a rope that is slowly slipping from your hands, maybe it's time to let go, not because you didn't try hard enough, but because you've been trying too long in their silence. A relationship truly worth keeping is not one where you must fight to be seen, but one where you are accepted without having to prove your worth. And if you're walking the whole path alone, then it's no longer us, it's just you, convincing yourself that us still exists. 4. They make you betray your own values. Respecting others should never mean betraying yourself. Some relationships don't force you to change all at once, but over time, through small compromises, silent tolerances, and the habit of letting it slide, you slowly drift away from yourself. That's when you stop living by what you believe and start living by what others expect or impose. Betraying personal values isn't always dramatic or obvious. Sometimes it begins with a seemingly harmless suggestion. Just this once. Maybe it is when someone urges you to lie to avoid trouble, when they invite you to join in something dishonest, when they mock the principles you live by and nudge you to stop being so uptight. Each time you give in, you're not just changing your behavior, you're silencing part of the inner code that defines who you are. Stoicism emphasizes this, that while we cannot control external events, we can control our response to them. And what anchors that response is our inner values. When a relationship continually asks you to adjust, bend, or hide your beliefs to stay aligned with someone else, that's not adaptation, it's erosion. Pay close attention to how you feel after doing something against your principles. Do you feel stronger or uneasy? Do you feel closer to that person or more distant from yourself? A healthy relationship doesn't require you to change your core. It creates space for you to grow, but not at the cost of your integrity. Those who cause you to betray your values often don't use forceful words. They rely on social pressure, mockery, or emotional isolation. They make you feel like standing by your beliefs is rigid, outdated, or making a big deal out of nothing. Over time, you begin to feel awkward being true to yourself. And when you change, it's not because you've evolved, but because you've been conditioned. A common example is being pressured into actions you once believed were wrong, just to gain acceptance. It might be dishonesty at work, carelessness with ethics, or silence in the face of wrongdoing. Because it involves someone you know. At first, you tell yourself it's an exception, but enough exceptions become habit. And habit blurs the line between right and wrong. A Stoic doesn't seek perfection, but they remain steadfast. They understand that personal values are the compass guiding conduct. Without that compass, we are easily swayed by circumstance, emotion, or the influence of others. Each time we surrender those principles, we're not just breaking a rule, we're weakening the foundation for future self-governance. Worse still, compromising your values under someone else's pressure can lead to self-doubt. When you live against your beliefs, you begin to question whether those beliefs were ever valid. You become uncertain, disoriented, and more susceptible to future manipulation. This confusion doesn't stem from philosophy. It stems from letting others rewrite your moral framework. Those who frequently nudge you to betray your values may not always act with malice, but they share one trait. They don't respect what matters to you. They see your principles as barriers, not as pillars. And if you stay in that kind of relationship, you'll eventually have to choose. Keep them or keep yourself. In a healthy relationship, someone may disagree with your views, but they'll respect the difference. They won't demand that you change to suit them. They won't make you feel ashamed for what you believe. On the contrary, they'll encourage you to live by what makes you the best version of yourself. Betraying personal values doesn't happen all at once. It happens through silence, hesitant nods, and quiet concessions. If you feel yourself changing in ways that make you unrecognizable to yourself, that is the clearest sign the relationship no longer serves you. 5. They only come to you when they need something, then disappear when you need them. One of the clearest signs of an unbalanced relationship is when the other person's presence is tied to their own needs, not to genuine connection. They seek you out when they're in trouble, need support, or want comfort. But when you're the one in need of a check-in, a helping hand, or simply their presence, they vanish without a trace. Such a relationship isn't built on mutuality, but on one-sided extraction. In these relationships, the imbalance often unfolds quietly. They come to you with urgency, with emotional intensity, and can make you feel important, needed. But as soon as they get what they came for, advice, a loan, emotional or material support, they retreat. No follow-up, no sharing, no continued connection. The Stoic understands that every action must be viewed through the lens of truth and reason. When someone always shows up as the one in need, but never as the one who gives, it's a sign of insincerity in the bond. They don't care about who you are. They care about what you can do for them. This asymmetry can cut deeply, not because you expect repayment, but because an honest relationship should be rooted in reciprocal presence. In any connection, presence, both physical and emotional, is a form of respect. When someone is there only when they need something, but absent when you need a shoulder, an answer, or a companion, they are stepping away from the most basic responsibility in a relationship: mutual care. There is a kind of silence that isn't a pause, but a rejection. When you share your struggles and receive evasion, when you reach out and are met with the same recycled excuses, it shows that your place in their life is not that of a friend, but of a temporary convenience. The danger in these relationships is that they slowly cause you to question yourself. You begin to ask, am I asking for too much? Am I selfish for needing them right now? Am I being a burden? These questions are not the result of reason. They are the product of long-term imbalance, where giving became so constant that receiving now feels like guilt. In Stoic philosophy, balance in behavior is essential to inner peace. A person who lives by this code doesn't seek gratitude or reward, but they also do not allow themselves to be exploited. If a relationship casts you constantly in the role of fixer, supporter, or burden bearer, then it's no longer a human connection. It's a one-sided dependency. No one should be treated as a temporary stop whenever another person encounters crisis. If you're not remembered in ordinary times, if your joy isn't worth sharing, if you only enter their mind when they're in trouble, then the relationship isn't grounded in understanding or care, but is a transaction disguised as closeness. 6. They don't respect your boundaries. Boundaries don't divide others. They keep you whole. Personal boundaries are not walls built from fear or defensiveness, but healthy lines that safeguard inner integrity, uphold mutual respect, and prevent relationships from unconsciously invading personal space. When someone repeatedly crosses the boundaries you've set, it's not merely a lack of sensitivity, it's a sign of disrespect. In a respectful relationship, boundaries are heard, understood, and honored. The other person doesn't have to agree with all your choices, but they won't ignore the lines you've clearly drawn. Conversely, when someone frequently violates those limits, even under the pretext of just joking, you're overreacting, or I'm just trying to help, they are dismissing your right to self-determination. One of the most common forms is ignoring your no. When you say no, they don't take it as a firm decision, but as an invitation to negotiate. They repeat their request, apply pressure, or make you feel guilty for not meeting their expectations. Over time, you begin to fear saying no, and that fear erodes your ability to control how others enter your life. Stoic philosophy teaches that one must first govern the self, and boundaries are an essential part of that process. Without clear boundaries, or when they're constantly violated, people begin to lose inner steadiness. Any relationship that lacks healthy limits easily becomes a source of overreach, pain, or prolonged resentment. A more subtle breach of boundaries comes through ridicule or public disclosure of what was meant to stay private. For instance, you share something in confidence, and they bring it up in a crowd, cloaked in humor. No harsh words are needed. Breaking a promise of silence is enough to create insecurity. When something you trusted to be safe becomes a punchline, you don't just lose trust in them, you lose faith in the shared space between you. Some people cross boundaries through control. They ask invasive questions, interfere with personal decisions, or dismiss choices you've made with care. They may frame it as concern, but they interrogate, criticize, or try to shape your life. They don't forbid you outright, but they make you feel guilty for doing anything against their expectations. These behaviors reveal one truth: they don't acknowledge your authority over your own life. A respectful relationship isn't defined only by kind actions, but also by knowing when to step back. Someone who honors your boundaries understands that not everything must be known. Not every moment requires their presence, and not every line is a rejection. On the other hand, when someone constantly tries to erase the space you've set, they act as if you have no right to control your own being. A Stoic does not establish boundaries to push others away, but to preserve clarity and temperance in all interactions. When the other person refuses to respect those lines, the relationship will inevitably become distorted. Any closeness without respect is intrusion. Someone who disregards your boundaries won't stop with just one line. They'll go further, step by step, until you no longer remember which limits were crossed, or how many times you've retreated just to keep the peace. 7. They belittle your joy and success. One of the most overlooked yet deeply wounding signs in any relationship is when the other person shows no genuine joy at your success or happiness. They don't object, they don't insult, but their cold silence, their shifting of the subject, or their forced congratulations all deliver the same message. They're not happy that you are. A lack of enthusiasm for another's joy isn't merely poor communication. It reveals quiet comparison, suppressed envy, or even a sense of threat in the face of your progress. In a healthy relationship, one person's success is a shared joy, but when someone consistently minimizes your moment, it's a sign the relationship is rooted not in encouragement, but in subtle competition. Those who belittle your joy rarely attack it outright. They act indifferent, toss out remarks like, "Anyone could do that. Let's see how long that lasts," or "Don't get ahead of yourself." These words don't just diminish your experience. They plant the idea that expressing joy makes others uncomfortable. Stoicism teaches that inner peace isn't just about restraint. It's about choosing the right people to share your emotions with. If you have to hide your happiness just to keep someone else comfortable, that relationship is no longer a refuge. It's a quiet barrier between you and your authentic self. Some don't express negativity outright, but their behavior says enough. They don't ask follow-up questions when you share something meaningful. They change the subject when you talk about progress. They never bring up the good things you've experienced, yet remember every setback. That reveals that, in their inner world, the version of you that succeeds is not the one they wish to see. This behavior slowly breeds doubt. You start hesitating before sharing joy. You pause before announcing good news. You fear that your happiness might strain the relationship. And when that happens, you're no longer yourself within it. You begin living by someone else's emotions, not in alignment with your own. In a resilient relationship, one person's growth does not diminish the other. It becomes motivation for both to rise. But when joy is dimmed or success downplayed, the relationship has shifted from connection to quiet opposition. In such a bond, you're always shrinking yourself to avoid making the other feel small. From a Stoic view, the emotions of others lie beyond our control, but where we place our trust, time, and energy is within our domain. Continuing to invest in a relationship that cannot celebrate your joy with sincerity, that is a matter for reflection. If your success is met with silence, indifference, or discomfort, you may be standing beside someone who cannot watch you rise without feeling left behind. No one should feel guilty for thriving. No one should have to shrink their joy because someone else cannot face their growth. When those around you show no support, hoping for their approval only pulls you away from yourself. 8. They drag you into problems that aren't yours. You weren't born to play a supporting role in someone else's tragedy. Some relationships make you feel like you are constantly in crisis mode, even when your own life is calm. This doesn't stem from your own disruptions, but from being repeatedly pulled into chaos created by someone else. When someone consistently brings drama, trouble, and tension, then expects you to participate, accompany, or resolve it, they are casting you in a role that was never yours. These individuals don't seek to take responsibility for their actions. They overreact, exaggerate problems, and quickly turn to you as their emotional rescuer. Whether you're tired, busy, or entirely uninvolved, you're still drawn into their storm. They don't ask if you're ready to engage. They assume you'll show up, listen, and intervene. Stoic philosophy emphasizes the importance of maintaining calm and command over our thoughts. When someone repeatedly burdens you with their instability, placing on your shoulders a weight that isn't yours, they are violating your mental domain. And if you don't recognize this clearly, you'll begin to act as if it's your duty, even though it never was. Some trouble doesn't come from genuine misfortune, but from repeated irresponsible choices. They may speak of conflict, failure, or heartbreak, but if you look closely, the patterns are the same. They don't change their responses, they don't learn, and they have no intention to improve. They only need a place to unload, and you, the listener, unwittingly become a supporting character in their personal tragedy. When you express the desire to step back or refuse to get involved, they may guilt you. They say things like, "You're all I have," "You're the only one who understands me," or "I don't know who else to turn to." These aren't simple confessions. They are emotional binds. You're placed in a position to carry their mental burdens, even when you had no hand in creating them. One of the most dangerous consequences is that you gradually lose your clarity. You no longer distinguish your emotions from theirs. Every call or message from them triggers anxiety, tension, or the impulse to drop everything and handle their problems. Over time, you'll realize you are living reactively, not from your own life, but from theirs. Stoicism teaches a clear distinction between what we can control and what we cannot. The troubles of others, no matter how much we care, remain beyond our full governance. When they refuse to change or take ownership, your efforts are only a temporary patch on a fire they have no intention of putting out. A healthy relationship doesn't drag you into disorder. It's a space that helps you maintain composure, not one that fractures it. If someone's presence consistently means there's a problem to fix, then you are being used as a source of energy, not seen as a human being. And when your role is reduced to rescuer, your value has already been diminished in their eyes. Someone who truly cares won't force you to stand in the storm they created. They'll seek to take ownership, not throw you into the center of the chaos to avoid consequence. And if they won't accept responsibility for what they've caused, then it is not your duty to bear it for them. 9. You've outgrown them, but they still pull you back. There are relationships you've worked hard to walk away from, where you've moved past the pain and reclaimed your peace. And yet, they keep trying to pull you back with sweet words, old memories, or even guilt. They won't accept your transformation, won't let you settle into your new life, and constantly seek to drag you into the same old cycle. In Stoic philosophy, letting go of what no longer serves personal growth is a necessary act to attain autonomy and inner peace. When you've escaped a toxic relationship, returning out of fleeting emotion or pressure from the other person risks undoing everything you've gained. They may try various ways to draw you back, from revisiting fond memories to claiming they have changed, or making you feel guilty for leaving. But if you look closely, you'll see these gestures are not born of sincere care, but of a desire to control and keep you within their reach. Going back to a relationship you've outgrown is not just a regression, it's a betrayal of yourself. You've endured the healing, learned to set boundaries, and found your balance again. Letting them pull you back would destroy all that you've rebuilt. Stoicism teaches that while we cannot control the actions of others, we can control our own response. When they attempt to pull you back, you have the power to remain unmoved, to step away from the emotional game. You can stand firm in your boundaries, stand firm in your choice, and continue on your path. What matters is recognizing that their refusal to accept your growth is not your burden. You are under no obligation to explain yourself, to please them, or to return just to soothe their discomfort. Your freedom and peace should not be sacrificed because someone else cannot let go. When you feel the pull, remember why you left. Remember the pain, the disrespect, the emotional toll you endured. Remember that you deserve better, a life of clarity and relationships that uplift and restore. Holding to your decision to walk away is not cruelty, it is courage and self-respect. You are protecting yourself, protecting your growth and your well-being, and that is entirely right. I once believed that growing up meant learning how to preserve every relationship, especially with those who once mattered in the past. But through experience, I've come to realize this. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for ourselves is to stop. Stop texting, stop waiting, stop holding on. Stoicism has taught me that inner calm doesn't come from pleasing everyone, but from choosing who is allowed to be near our mind. We cannot control how others behave, but we can absolutely control whether we choose to remain in that relationship or not. When someone repeatedly crosses boundaries, dismisses our feelings, or forces us to shrink ourselves just to stay connected, then it's no longer a bond, but a burden. I began practicing through small actions, not replying to messages immediately, not engaging in negative conversations, not over-explaining when I say no. At first, guilt was inevitable, but gradually, I learned that selective silence is also a form of love, a way to love myself. Letting go is not coldness. It is the act of someone who knows where peace begins and chooses to protect it. If you found this content helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if one day you must walk away, remember, it's not because you stopped loving, but because you've chosen to love yourself the right way. See you in the next video.